Who here isn't a fan of this fittingly named gigantic moth that kaiju fans all over the world absolutely adore? Well, when you have a career spanning over 6 decades and a horde of movies where Mothra has both starred and guest starred, you just know it for a fact that you cannot take this selfless protector of the earth lightly. So if you happen to be someone who needs a crash course on Mothra, then today's video is bound to catch you up to speed. Are you ready? Let's dive into all the movies that have featured Mothra so far. But before we get into our explanation, we do have one very small request. If you enjoy our content, then please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Now let's begin. Mothra, 1961. There's no denying that Ishiro Honda's Mothra had this undeniable impact not only on Japanese cinema, but also on the kaiju genre overall, paving the way for hundreds of films in the future that have been insanely ingenious to explore the multifaceted relationship humankind shares with the natural world. As the first flick in the Mothra franchise, it effortlessly manages to go beyond the typical monster movie formula, with its poignant storyline, breathtaking visuals, and unique blend of fantasy and horror. Story-wise, Mothra begins with an expedition to a remote Pacific island, initially thought to be uninhabited. Besides discovering barren volcanic mountains surrounding strange green valleys and mammoth caves breeding giant mutations, the team, led by the ambitious and shady businessman Clark Nelson, surprisingly encounters 2 astoundingly tiny fairies. Dubbed Shobijin, these enchanting creatures are sacred beauties of a lost tribe that worships the island's ancient deity, Mothra. Hell-bent on exploiting the fairies for sheer profit, Nelson ends up abducting them and bringing them to Tokyo. However, oblivious to Nelson, the Shobijin are a lot more than just mere performers, as they're seen summoning their divine protector from captivity. Enveloped in a shell that no mere human force could ever penetrate, the all-powerful, indestructible Mothra arrives in Tokyo looking for the kidnapped fairies and wreaking colossal havoc along the way. Even with Mothra making her first big-screen debut back in 1961, the character made it significantly clear that her destructive wrath is way more devastating than any man-made weapon for that matter. From defying warplanes, wrecking enormous ocean liners, and creating hurricanes to effortlessly smash dams and bridges, Mothra's destructive rampage on display is absolutely terrifying. Even in its larva form, Mothra manages to create both a sense of wonder as well as terror, and for this we have the legendary Eiji Tsuburaya to give full credit to. Now, many of you may not know this, but the Mothra larva was actually the biggest costume that Toho had created in the Showa era. In fact, the Mothra larva that is seen running amok through the Tokyo streets had a total of 8 men inside of it, with Godzilla suit actor Haruo Nakajima being the frontman, of course. The benevolent giant moth may not be as iconic as the big lizard of destruction, but that never stopped Mothra from proving that she's worthy of her own film series. Rebirth of Mothra, 1996. Directed by Okihiro Yoneda, Rebirth of Mothra not only serves itself as a soft reboot, but also introduces new continuity by reimagining the fan-favorite giant flying insect for the modern audience. Inevitably, the best of the Rebirth of Mothra trilogy, this final kaiju film, produced under the supervision of the widely celebrated Tomoyuki Tanaka, has a logging company inadvertently breaking a set of ancient magical seals, which in turn unleashes the giant, monstrous 3-headed space dragon King Ghidorah from its subterranean prison. With the extraterrestrial behemoth posing a grave danger to all living things on Earth, it's up to Mothra to save the planet from complete annihilation. With tour de force special effects by Koichi Kawakita and a complementing musical score by Toshiyuki Watanabe, the movie categorically features a new and much improved Mothra. Now, when we say improved, we'd like to state that this Mothra actually comes with lasers, and she's seen engaging herself in some exceedingly impressive fighting sequences against the formidable King Ghidorah. Clearly, the kaiju action on display is intense and extreme. In fact, the second half of the flick is majorly jam-packed with some very heavy on-action, epic battle sequences. Rebirth of Mothra thoroughly delves into pertinent, thought-provoking themes of environmentalism, and dare we disregard the delicate balance of nature. The film continues to serve itself as a cautionary tale about the ravaging impacts of human interference with the natural world, while simultaneously stressing preserving our world's ecosystems. Rebirth of Mothra 2, 1997. It was the success of Rebirth of Mothra that spawned Mothra 2, thereby expanding the majestic creature's mythology and also cementing its position as a beloved entry in the kaiju genre. Story-wise, Mothra 2 takes place after the events of Rebirth of Mothra, where we find a new threat emerging from the depths of the ocean this time. Dagara, a giant sea monster drawn by the rising levels of environmental pollution, has let loose a horde of poisonous starfish-like creatures, known as the Barim, that kill numerous forms of sea life and ravage the coastal areas. Around the same time, a group of 3 children come across a strange little creature called Gogo, who happen to hold the key to unlocking the mysterious treasures of the ancient, lost civilization of Nirai Kanai. Oh, in case you missed out, Nirai Kanai was responsible for creating the sea monster that was meant to manage pollution. But of course, that didn't happen, as Dagara went rogue. Anyway, with the children embarking on a perilous journey, along with the Elias sisters, Mol and Laura, in the hopes of seeking out the lost treasure, will they be able to preserve their planet's deteriorating environment and also save the world from Dagara's destructive rampage? Well, that's for you to learn, because we already know the ending. Truth be told, this film is the weakest of the Rebirth trilogy, and there's no denying that. However, having said so, it's visually stunning, given the striking special effects of Koichi Kawakita. May we also add that the effects were pretty impressive, particularly for its time, and those who have seen Mothra 2 will surely agree with us. It's quite amusing to find Mothra getting access to what would be fitting to call out-and-out outrageous abilities. For those of you who don't believe us, well, there's a Mothra morphing into Rainbow Mothra, and if this doesn't suffice for you, we have the Rainbow Mothra morphing into Aqua Mothra, which of course comes with a new set of powers. Dagara also proves to be the terrifying villain of the movie, challenging Mothra at every step. But what makes the kaiju action immersive is undoubtedly Toshiyuki Watanabe's rousing background score. Rebirth of Mothra 3, 1988. Interestingly, there are many kaiju fans out there who find Okihiro Yoneda's Rebirth of Mothra 3 the best of the Rebirth trilogy. While we will be citing all the key elements that make the movie stand out, let us first take a look at the screenplay. Written by Masumi Suetani, the film features the fearsome 3-headed space dragon King Ghidorah, who makes his foreboding presence known by abducting children and placing them inside an organic dome to drain out their life force. With the world at risk again, and facing what clearly seems to be a devastating threat, Mothra is sent back in time to defeat a younger and more vulnerable Ghidorah. The movie artfully sets the stage for a classic time-traveling adventure, especially with Mothra going back in time to confront Ghidorah in an epic prehistoric battle. Special mention has to be given to the lifelike designs of Mothra and Ghidorah, because not only are they both impressive here, but the intricacy and attention to detail also reflect the artistic nature and craftsmanship of the people involved in the film. The special effects featured are great, given that we actually see quite a bit of city destruction happening here, unlike the previous movie. In terms of forms, Mothra comes with options. Not only do we get to see Rainbow Mothra, but we also get to witness Armor Mothra and Eternal Mothra, and if you ask us, the variations truly make the character endlessly powerful. While the large-scale battles between the legendary creatures are certainly a high point of the movie, there's no denying that the time-traveling part also offers a rather unique layer to the storyline. Last but not least, besides the usually thrilling action sequences and the spectacular visuals, Rebirth of Mothra 3 continues to captivate its audience, with Toshiyuki Watanabe's enthralling background score enhancing the emotional part of the story and taking the flick to new heights. Godzilla, King of the Monsters, 2019. One of the best things about Michael Dougherty's big-budget kaiju crossover is the fact that it stays true to its title. The 2019 monster movie brings together Godzilla and his legendary rivals, King Ghidorah and Rodan, in a manner never seen before. Well, of course, there's Mothra too, but her role is more like an ally, assisting Godzilla. Now, in terms of the storyline, the second Godzilla entry in Legendary Pictures' Monsterverse has eco-terrorists releasing Godzilla's arch-nemesis, the 3-headed King Ghidorah, who in turn not only ends up awakening the other dormant titans across the world, but also has them under his control. Upon realizing Ghidorah's destructive intent, Godzilla, aided by Mothra, is seen engaging Ghidorah and Rodan in a never-before-seen battle, one that will also prove who the ultimate king of monsters is. While we do wish to go on and on about the movie, and we'll be more than happy to do so again in our future videos, let's get back to our main guest here, Mothra. Godzilla, King of the Monsters notably makes a lot of visible changes to the character. There's no denying that the big moth certainly looks fabulous in the film, and she also happens to be a major part of some incredibly impressive battle sequences. Mothra's role in the movie is multifaceted. Her sacrifice in particular also adds to this. Her transferring her own powers to Godzilla ensured the very survival of Godzilla in the first place. Also, addressing fans of the movie and the character, if you've paid attention to Mothra's design, you will recall the eye spots on her wings. Well, in case you didn't know, they were actually designed to resemble Godzilla's eyes in order to create a bond between the two titans. In fact, Dougherty also has said, and we quote his exact words, "She is his flag bearer and queen." Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, 2024. Adam Wingard's latest release, which actually serves as a sequel to Godzilla vs. Kong, is set 3 years after the events of the 2021 monster film. While Kong has established his new territory in the Hollow Earth, Godzilla is seen maintaining order between humanity and the Titans on the surface, with Kong encountering more of his species and eventually crossing paths with the tyrannical Scar King, and the latter's enslaved living weapon, the ice-breathing Titan Shimo. He seeks the assistance of Godzilla to take down the menacing Scar King. Of course, there's a different thing that a certain Moth also offers to help Kong and Godzilla in their battle against Scar King. It's true that post Mothra's tragic sacrifice in Godzilla King of the Monsters, many fans, including us, were not really expecting her character to make an appearance anytime soon. So one can completely imagine our level of excitement when we witnessed her in the film out of the blue. Seeing Mothra in her full glory was a sheer treat, and it goes without saying that she was certainly the high point of the new empire. Also, I simply love the fact that her character was actually recontextualized as the guardian of the Iwi tribe, and for this, we have to give full credit to the screenplay by Terry Rossio, Simon Barrett, and Jeremy Slater. While the Titan Queen's screen time in the film is undoubtedly brief, getting to see her share the same frame with Godzilla and Kong was nothing short of a magical experience. Mothra vs. Godzilla 1964. Ishiro Honda's Mothra vs. Godzilla, featuring special effects by Eiji Tsuburaya, may have Godzilla in the title, but truth be told, this is Mothra's movie, and there are no second thoughts about it. Plot-wise, it should be familiar to you by this point, and if not, we'll help you out with it. So, a news reporter and a photographer come across an enormous egg floating near a beach, but before they can get much information about it, a greedy businessman swoops in and takes the egg to commercially exploit it. The Shobijin arrive and demand that the egg is returned, but their requests are denied, and attempts are even made to capture them. This coincides with the emergence of Godzilla, who starts wreaking havoc in Japan. With the humans turning to the divine Mothra for help, the stage is set for an epic confrontation between the two titans, each representing a different force of nature. In case you didn't know this, it was the sheer success of Ishiro Honda's kaiju flicks Mothra and King Kong vs. Godzilla that drove Toho to pit Godzilla vs. Mothra. And the rest, as you know, is history. The film deliberately portrays Godzilla as a specter of nuclear annihilation, and Mothra as a messenger of peace. No wonder it delivers on the promise of a spectacular monster battle, and given the groundbreaking special effects, Mothra vs. Godzilla is nothing short of a visual treat. Mothra, both in her adult and larvae forms, look absolutely incredible. The Y-shaped braces attached to the back of the Mothra prop allowed it to flap its wings, giving it a realistic feeling throughout. In fact, there are scenes in the movie where Mothra appears like she's actually breathing. The attention to detail in the film is monumental. Furthermore, the musical score of this timeless classic here is done by the late Akira Ifukube, the composer who was also responsible for the original Godzilla theme. Godzilla and Mothra, The Battle for Earth 1992. Initially conceived as a standalone Mothra film, Takao Okawara's Godzilla vs. Mothra became the highest-earning Japanese film in 1993. To those of you wondering why, well, there are a lot of reasons. To begin with, the film not only features the titular characters, but there also happens to be an additional monster here, and not just any, but a dark Mothra in particular. And fantastic special effects by Koichi Kawakita. The storyline has Japan caught up in the middle of an intense three-way battle taking place between Godzilla, Mothra, and her evil counterpart, Battra. One who is certainly not to be taken lightly. The high point of this film categorically is the monsters on display, each with a mission and story of their own. While the film features the classic Godzilla vs. Mothra dynamic, it also introduces the new monster, Battra, who happens to be the male, vicious-looking version of Mothra. Battra quickly proves himself to be a worthy opponent of Godzilla after he's seen shooting laser beams from his head. Mothra is seen pulling up the same antic, but she doesn't stop at that. We actually find Mothra shooting lightning from her wings, making it very clear that under no circumstances is she going to be treated as a random moth. This, of course, brings us to the kaiju battles that are not only visually impactful, but also quite fierce and destructive. There's also a particular underwater battle sequence between Godzilla and Battra that just can't be disregarded. We sincerely urge you to watch Godzilla and Mothra, The Battle for Earth, because it's truly one to remember. Godzilla Final Wars 2004. Serving itself as the sixth and final film in the Millennium series, Ryuhei Kitamura's Godzilla Final Wars is more like a celebration of the Godzilla franchise, having on display appearances of several Toho monsters. Final Wars is set in a future where Earth is plagued by giant creatures, when a mysterious alien race known as the Exilians arrives on Earth. The Earth Defense Force, in spite of being formed by mutants, finds themselves incapable of defeating the monsters. This has Captain Douglas Gordon unleashing Godzilla, who's been imprisoned under the ice in Antarctica for many years, to fight against the swarm of monsters and supremely powerful Monster X, wreaking havoc on cities all around the world, and in turn, save the future of mankind. Many have often cited Final Wars to be one of the best Godzilla movies to have ever been made, and if you ask us, we think it's a fitting tribute to the iconic monster. This movie has everything. It's a rush of explosive excitement, one that is packed to the brim with non-stop action, creatures, and let's not forget, mayhem. Of course, there's our beloved Mothra too, who plays an essential part in the film. The ancient moth goddess not only delivers her part in defending Earth from the cyborg monster Gigan, but is also seen aiding Godzilla in the fight against the Exilians. While the battles on display are highly entertaining, Eiichi Asada's special effects and the musical score by Keith Emerson, Nobuhiko Morino, and Daisuke Yano make the whole experience very enjoyable. Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack, 2001. Tell us something. Has the thought of an unstoppable, vengeful Godzilla ever crossed your mind? Well, it did cross Shusuke Kaneko's mind, and he decided to make things more interesting by coming up with Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack. And when you have a tagline that states who will be the last monster standing, you know for a fact that things are about to get exciting. So story-wise, we have Chiharu Niyama in the role of an intrepid journalist, covering the story of King Ghidorah, Mothra, and Baragon, the mystical monstrous guardians defending Japan from Godzilla, who happens to be possessed by the vengeful spirits of those killed during the Pacific War. In case you didn't know this, Shusuke Kaneko's GMK actually serves itself as a direct sequel to Ishiro Honda's Godzilla. Interestingly, Kaneko initially wanted Godzilla to face off against a revamped version of Kamakurus, but eventually made up his mind after having a bit of coaxing by Toho to pit Godzilla against King Ghidorah and Mothra in the hopes of attracting more viewers. And truth be told, it's pretty exhilarating to witness Mothra and Ghidorah team up, given that their pairing is far more common. There are many things that have earned GMK a special spot in the upper echelons of the kaiju film rankings. From remarkable special effects and impressive creature designs to spectacular battle sequence, the movie has everything for fans of the genre. Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster, 1964. Don't you get this happy feeling every time you see Mothra get thrust into her staple kaiju peacemaker role? If you ask us, we feel absolutely elated every single time it's happened. Well, in Ishiro Honda's Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster, we pretty much get to see the same thing. The narrative has the fire-breathing three-headed space dragon all set to destroy Earth, and only Godzilla and Rodan can defeat Ghidorah. But of course, that's only going to happen if Mothra can convince the duo to team up and save the planet from complete annihilation. Die-hard fans of Godzilla might not particularly be in favor of the campy flavor of this movie here, but if you call yourself a true fan of Mothra, you will have every reason to like this one. To be able to witness the moth turn into a monster mediator and actually put in so much effort cannot be missed at any cost. Mind you, Mothra appears as a giant larva in the movie, but that doesn't stop her from stealing the spotlight. The ensuing battle is truly a spectacle of colossal proportion. The special effects by Eiji Tsuburaya are incredible, and King Ghidorah does full service as the extraterrestrial behemoth, reducing cities to rubble with devastating lightning bolts fired from his head. Godzilla Tokyo SOS 2003. Masaki Tezuka's Godzilla Tokyo SOS is a direct sequel to Tezuka's Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, and picks up right after the events of the 2002 film. To those of you who have not seen the movie, please know that Mechagodzilla is addressed as Kiryu in this kaiju film. Now that that part's clear, let us take a look at this basic plotline. The narrative has the Shobijin arriving to warn the Japanese government. The tiny twin fairies tell them that they have to put Kiryu to rest at the bottom of the sea, given that it's constructed using the very bones of the original Godzilla. Despite the Shobijin offering Mothra's protection, the government refuses to take their help, and with Godzilla returning and seeking revenge, it's safe to say that the battle of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla vs. Mothra carries on. Well, we're looking at a film that's been highly praised for featuring the best monster action Toho has produced. No wonder, the fighting sequences on display are exceedingly exhilarating. As for Mothra, her character certainly happens to be one of the primary interesting things of the film, as she is portrayed in a slightly contrasting manner from her usual self. Can you imagine the benevolent Mothra ever declaring war on mankind? Like it or not, but that's how she's been portrayed here, even if it is to an extent. Eiichi Asada categorically deserves a special mention for doing an amazing job with special effects. Mothra's wing attacks in particular were great, and those who have seen the film are bound to agree with us. Godzilla Tokyo SOS is an exciting, action-packed monster mayhem movie that definitely needs your attention. Destroy All Monsters, 1968. Believe us when we tell you that Ishiro Honda's Destroy All Monsters is an epic kaiju film that pretty much includes the biggest Godzilla team-up. The year is 1999, all of Earth's monsters have been collected, and they live together in a place called Monsterland. So what happens when a feminine alien race takes control of the mega monsters, and demands that the human race either surrenders to them, or faces complete annihilation? Well, that's for you to figure out. The whole idea of a swarm of captive mega monsters restricted to a particular place is actually quite an intriguing idea. To top things off, we have an alien species who not only lets the monsters loose, but also has them out of control, further encouraging them to attack. Well, you're looking at a screenplay co-written by Takashi Kimura and Honda, and it's only fair to admit that they have done a brilliant job with it. Now, if you look at the practical effects, they're fantastic given the time period they belong to. Akira Ifukube's memorably booming musical score categorically takes the climactic monster battle to a whole new level. If you love kaiju films and still haven't seen Destroy All Monsters, you don't know what you're missing out on. Ebirah, Horror of the Deep, 1966. What if we told you that while Ebirah, Horror of the Deep was in development, the kaiju flick had plans to feature King Kong instead of Godzilla? Well, now that we think of it, Godzilla was obviously a better choice. What do you think? While we let you ponder about that and get back to us later with your thoughts in the comments section, how about we get to the plotline? Directed by Jun Fukuda and written by Shinichi Sekizawa, Ebirah, Horror of the Deep has 4 men who are searching for one's brother, finding themselves shipwrecked on an island, which unbeknownst to them, serves as a base for a terrorist organization called the Red Bamboo. Besides manufacturing heavy water for selling weapons for mass destruction, the Red Bamboo also has enslaved the natives from the nearby Infant Island. If you think that's all, wait till you hear the part where the organization also has control over a monstrous lobster-like creature called Ebirah. Now, with Godzilla finding a resting place within the cliffside cavern of the very same island, chaos is bound to ensue. While the movie certainly features Mothra, she pretty much arrives at the end to rescue the natives. But if you think she doesn't have an exciting role here, you're wrong. In spite of being part of a cameo, she gets challenged by Godzilla, whom she's quickly able to drive away. The 1966 kaiju film has some stunning underwater sequences, besides its thrilling action and captivating visuals. Last but not least, kudos to Fukuda for executing a tale of environmental destruction the way he envisioned it. Monster Planet of Godzilla, 1994. We're basically looking at a kaiju short film, one that is directed by the late Koichi Kawakita and written by Marie Terunuma. For those of you who aren't entirely aware, the film basically served itself as a theme park attraction and was screened both at Sanrio Puroland as well as Harmonyland from 1994 to 1998. Monster Planet of Godzilla happens to be this 3D motion simulator that had on display specifically filmed sequences of Godzilla fighting against Mothra and Rodan. All of the monsters featured in the short film were portrayed using the very costumes and props from the early 1990s Godzilla films. In addition to all of this, a new spaceship named Earth was also introduced to foil the destructive rampage of the monsters. Marvelous verdict. Well, with this, we finally come to the exciting end of our video. So what are your thoughts on Mothra? Have you seen all the movies that we've mentioned in our list? We'd certainly love to hear which is your favorite Mothra movie, and of course, you get to pick more than one. Now, if you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Please do leave a thumbs up and stay tuned with us, as we promise to come back with another favorite video soon. Until then, stay safe and stay marvelous. Also, thanks for watching. Have a good one.